Hi, this is Bekim. Thank you for listening to this episode of Lending Thoughts, sponsored by Rocket Pro. Today, I'll be talking with my friend and the co-founder and CEO of 8Twelve Mortgage, Gary Fooks. Gary has some interesting things to say about building lasting referral relationships that you're not going to want to miss. Also, we talk about some of the successful traits you'll find in some of the best agents out there. And lastly, we'll touch on technology and the future with AI. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. Listen in today. Gary, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So here with Gary Fooks, the co-founder, CEO of 8Twelve Mortgage, who's become a friend of mine over the years, somebody I lean on when I'm in need of advice and give a call to. And I'm actually in the process of a budding partnership with. So it's nice to have you on here today. Gary, would love for you to tell people a little bit more about yourself. And I'd like to condense it because you could probably, give a whole lot of detail. So in 60 seconds or less, could you tell us your life story?
Yeah, for sure. It was a cold day. No, I'm just joking. Look, spent a couple of years on Wall Street, early 2000s. I spent the next 10 years scaling sales organizations using technology and business process outsourcing. I would say I stumbled across mortgages end of 2014. I was really blown away with how antiquated it was. And, my passion has always been sales and service. Obviously I had a finance background. I saw an opportunity to jump in and disrupt the space. I've always been a big believer for myself that if I'm going to open a bakery, it's really important that I know how to make the bread. And that was it. So I got licensed over the holiday break. My license number starts with a 1-4. But January 2015, very basic technology, call it CRM 1.0. I kind of jumped in, hit the ground running. I was very lucky or fortunate, maybe both. By year 3, I was doing just shy of 100 million a year. All my business came from referrals. 99.9% was from referrals. And, I just got to a point where I was like, okay, well, what does growth look like from here? And when I looked around, nobody had built a model in mass to service, referral partnerships in scale, right? And that was really the vision and idea, behind 8Twelve. So today we're a national brokerage building actually a network across the country. We service very large partnerships, some of them publicly traded companies, work with pretty much every lender across the entire mortgage network. I always say to my referral partners, you never have to ask us, do you do? If it has the word mortgage in it, we do it. Whether clients qualify, again, debt service, property location, hair color, eye color, different answer. But you never have to ask us, do we do? So that's kind of the 60 seconds of my life story.
Awesome. Yeah, great to hear. Thanks for sharing. So you mentioned in their partnerships, and that's something I want to focus on with you a little bit because you've sort of built the foundation of your business at 8Twelve on it, from what I understand. I mean, I know it's expanded now and you guys have sort of, shifted a little bit in the expansion with working with independent brokers, but originally you were very focused in the partnership space. And when I say partnerships, I mean more specifically like you're dealing with financial advisor networks, insurance brokers, things like that, assume some lawyers. What made you focus on that as a niche? And why do you think that was a place where you thought you would take the team in that direction to get started?
Look, I love servicing people, whether it's clients, whether referral partners. Like I said, I'm passionate about sales and service. Those are the two things that when I get up in the morning that I want to jump out of bed and do. And I just felt like with referral partnerships, you're building, a relationship with people for life versus, traditionally, if you're doing some sort of online advertising, Google, Facebook, et cetera, it's more transactional, I feel. But with partnerships, again, it's very relationship based. And, that's why I gravitated towards it. I was never a rate discount broker. I always wanted to kind of provide value above and beyond, closing the mortgage, right? And that was something that I was always passionate about. And that's the direction that I took the business in.
And did you go that way when you were brokering on your own as well? I mean, you said, first of all, just amazing, like doing 100 million on your own to start. Like, was that something that you started doing as an individual and then were like, hey, I could build a team around this? Or is that something that like, hey, you had some referral partnerships and then the light bulb switched with a advisor or two? Where you're like, wait, I think I can get more of these and actually supply a whole bunch of others with lead flow.
When I started, I had no Rolodex. I didn't come from a bank. I didn't have a book of business. I was literally starting from scratch. And, that first 3.5 years, so the first 6 months, 7 days a week, I'd run around trying to build relationships with realtors, financial advisors, accountants, lawyers, anybody who had, a trusted audience. And then at nights, I would use some of my old BPO world and schedule, cold calls with people who may have wanted to look for, a better mortgage offering. And I did that 6 months straight, 7 days a week. And then I did, 6 days for the next 3 years. But I just always found that I loved the relationship side. I love taking care of people. And when it came to the point where it's like, well, where do I grow from here? I could be a really good broker, but again, I wanted to build something special and, just going after partnerships in a larger opportunity where we can become a one-stop shop, either for enterprise companies that have a captive audience that have no mortgage product offering, some of the insurance companies, et cetera, or even now some of the large credit unions that we're bringing on as partners who have a limited offering, specifically the prime space, and then, don't want their clients to go elsewhere and, have kind of like an alternative mortgage solutions department where we can still, satisfy or provide all those other products that those partners don't do today. That was just the vision and the passion right from the beginning.
Yeah. And what do you say? Because if I'm, an independent broker, I'm hearing you talk and I'm like, I want that. I want to have a bunch of, loyal referral partners. I don't want to get beat down on price. I don't want to have to go buy leads. I want all those things. And I've knocked on the doors of realtors. I've talked to financial advisors. I've done all those things, but I've never really cracked that code and gotten through. What's your play? What's your pitch, if you don't mind sharing? Like, how do you approach somebody and say, I want to be your go-to person for mortgage going forward? Is it, I want all your clients? Is it like, I want this specific niche of clients, or are you tailoring that sale? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely am tailoring the sale. And I think the biggest mistake that people make today when they're going after any partner, whether it's one individual realtor or the whole brokerage that may have 500, they always go in there asking for business. I always took a very different approach. I went into all these referral partnerships and said, how do I create value for you as the partner first? Because if I do that, I know I'm going to get business in return. So if it's a financial advisory firm, how do I free up cash flow? How do I prevent your clients from having to sell investments when, things are tough, interest rates are high? Can I put them into a better mortgage product where they don't have to sacrifice, the products they have with you? So how do you create value for your partner first? That's number one. Again, everybody's asking for business. Come in there with an opportunity to create business for them. That's the biggest differentiator. I think that what I've done, and I think what most people do. And then once you do that, you got to deliver on those promises, right? So you got to have service, above and beyond. I mean, we live in an on-demand society. We track how quickly our food's coming to our front door. You got to provide that same level of service. And, I'd say the third thing is it's a relationship, right? It's no different than, if you have a partner or a spouse. If you only call them once every 6 months, it's not going to be a very healthy relationship. It's consistent touch points, consistent follow-ups, show them that you care, show them that you're available. And I think if you do those kind of three things, you can start with one, but I think you'll get a lot more over time. Again, very big, don't overpromise and underdeliver. If you don't have the infrastructure, like we got a team of 30, 40 people here, so we can take on these bigger partnerships. If you're a one, person shop or two-person shop, don't go after 500 realtors day one. You're not going to be able to deliver on it realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So just make sure you set yourself up for success because, the old adage, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah, very true. You say it like it's so easy, not to be coy about it. Doesn't everyone just go in and say, like, let me help your business? If I were to just open my LinkedIn today, I probably have 100 new LinkedIn messages of people saying, like, I'm here to help your business. But yet, for some reason, they believe you. Is it because we ask too fast? Do we, try to close on someone? Or is do people just sniff that out?
So look, I think people have to think about this, right? You're going to someone, whether it's a financial advisor, a realtor, an accountant, and you're asking them to hand off their biggest and most valuable asset, and that's the client relationship, right? So first off, you got to build relationships with people that they're going to trust you. So yeah, you can come in and just ask that. I don't think that's going to be as successful versus going in and really, having them get to know you, what you stand for, what your morals are, why this is so important for you, why you believe in what you do. So again, it's a relationship and you're asking someone to hand over the most important asset. You got to invest time into it and it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of times it's not a one call close. It's consistent follow-ups, consistent lunches or dinners, or it may take you 6 months to get that first opportunity. And again, it's like, I think people in generally, whether it's losing weight, stopping smoking, people expect, okay, I do something one time, that's it. I'm going to see results overnight.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
One
right?
salad.
So you got to be committed to it. You got to deliver on it. And you got to know that it could take a month, 3, 6, maybe a year. But if you believe in it and you believe in what you do, I think it's inevitable you'll get those opportunities.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about mortgage too in that way is that like people don't need a mortgage every single day. So even if someone
No.
says like, "Hey, yeah, sounds good. I like what you're saying. I'd love to work with you." They might not have a client ask them about, "Hey, can you help me with my mortgage for another
Yeah.
90 days?" They might not get that opportunity. You might not get that opportunity. You talk about being ready when that time comes and delivering on that. Like you might have to be patient through that process. Another thing that I notice in my world is I'll often hear these pitches, if they're coming my way, for example, I was talking about, hey, everyone's got like a pitch, but a lot of times what I find out, they've done no research before having a conversation with me. And something that I've always prided myself on and try to train our team is like, hey, let's find out who this person is before we go into it. We should know a whole lot about them and their business before we get on the phone and just start spewing all these things that we could do, right? Like, hey, I'll take all these clients. Like, that's not who my clients are. My clients are actually this bucket of clients. I work with clients in this space specifically here, and we're over pitching them on, alternative solutions. Come to find out they're high net worth and all their clients own, 7, 8 rentals. And the only thing they care about is like, how could I buy my ninth door and still qualify?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the very first thing I said is in order to be able to provide value for your partner, you have to know who your partner is,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And every pitch is tailored to that. It's understanding, just like you said, Bekem, who is the partner, who's their demographic, what are their needs, and how can you help those needs?
Yeah.
And if you do exactly what you said, then yes, I think the opportunities are there.
Yeah. So you're obviously great at it. That's why you built your business on it. And then you built the larger brokerage around it. And now you guys have been adding independent agents to your network as well, getting them onto your technology, into your systems and flows. I'm curious, how does that translate to independent brokers? Because you were building an internal team originally. You said that, 30, 40 people sort of like running a play, you're driving business to them, they're delivering on that level of service for you. I take it you don't originate yourself too much anymore. You probably just don't have the time.
Still take calls from once in a while. Don't kid yourself. We're always right, still involved, right?
You have to. That's how you keep the pulse. But how do you go and train hundreds of other independent agents to build your business? Because they're going to hear what you're saying. Again, they're going to be like, I want that. I want to build that. And there's enough opportunity out there. There's enough mortgages out there. There's enough advisors and realtors and referral partners that you could build your business on it. Like, how do you train them to go out and do what you've done?
Yeah, it's a great question. So look, we purposely held off onboarding independent agents for quite a while because I was very particular about, providing a certain service level from day one, right? You can open the restaurant and you can have the best food, but people walk in, like I will never go back to a restaurant that has terrible service. I don't care how good the food is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was very particular. If we're going to open this restaurant of bringing on independent agents, the service has to be amazing. So we didn't start that until, June of last year, roughly. And really the idea there, it's actually quite simple. It's take all the things that we believe make us successful and translate that to them. So we're very deep into a lot of education, training, support. So, a lot of underwriting training, a lot of, lender presentations. I come in and do a sales training once a month, in addition to kind of the weekly sales training that we do. We digitize everything. So if they can't make a certain time, a lot of mortgage agents are not, 100% full time. Some of them are maybe doing this as a side hustle with the goal of maybe getting to full time, which is okay. So we digitize everything so that they have a database where if they couldn't be at a specific meeting or a training session, they have access to it. I think the other thing is we do the same thing with independent agents that we've done with partnerships. I used to get recruited, 3 to 5 times a week, as I'm sure you did. And it was always like, okay, great. I'll respect you and I'd love to hear what your offering is. The offering was always the same. I'll pay you more. I'll do your payroll. And that was it. I was already getting paid more than what they were offering, and I already had payroll. Nobody ever sat down and said, Gary, tell me a little bit about your business, and let me see if there's things that I could offer you. And that is what we do here. Try to understand what their business looks like, and we try to plug in a lot of the operational efficiencies that make us successful into those friction points or those gaps that they have in their business. And that's where we differentiate ourselves. I feel like the business today of the independent agent has become extremely transactional. I mean, we know the bigger brands that are out there. From my feedback that I get, they're just a number and it's just about the transaction. There's no additional support. And we go the other way. We provide extensive support. Do you need a dedicated underwriter? Do you need a dedicated fulfillment officer? Like, how can we help you grow your business? I think that's what really makes us different and more flexible to understand their needs and be able to deliver on those needs so that we're helping them achieve, their goals and dreams within the industry.
Hmm. There's a saying that goes, culture is just as much what you don't do as what you do, which leads me to the follow-up question of that. Have you ever had a conversation or, the team that you're working with that's responsible for getting these new agents into your network, and you've understood their business to the point where you just said, hey, I don't think we're the right fit for you? Because it sounds like you're pretty particular. If they're wearing your brand, there's a specific level of service that you're expecting. It sounds like specific technology, which I actually would love to learn a little bit more about as well. But do you ever, look back across the table and say, hey, I don't think you're a fit for 812?
Yeah, I've sat with people who, were referred through a mutual connection, friend, family member, and I've literally said that. I said, listen, you sound like a great person, but I don't think mortgages is for you. They're kind of sitting there like a deer in headlights, like, why would you say that? Because it's not, right? I think one of the biggest questions that I ask people when I think about why I say that is why mortgages, right? And a lot of times their answer and the way they say it and what they say will dictate if I think that this will work for them or not. And I could tell you, I bat a pretty high average when it comes to telling people that they should not be doing mortgages. It's less likely with teams because, you got a lot of people. And I think there, you're going to have, whether it's a 90-10 or 80-20 rule, you're going to have some people that I think want to break through and will do the work and listen and follow. But with individuals, yeah, I've said that on many occasions.
Yeah, same. And I always say, like, I think I spend more time typically trying to talk people out of doing it than I do trying to convince them to do it. Because even if I blow smoke and tell them everything that they want to hear, the second the rubber meets the road and it gets really hard, they're going to quit. They're going to stop. And I've talked to career salespeople many times too, or like maybe they started by selling cell phones and then they sold cars, and they'll be like, yeah, mortgage or real estate's like the next logical step. And I'm like, why? Well, because I want to make more money.
That's
And
it.
it's like, that's not the right reason to get into this business. You can make more money in other places.
That's like a deal stopper for me. If that's their first answer, because I want to make more money, that's almost like a deal stopper for me, unless they said a lot of other things that
Right.
really, but if they say that's their first answer, it just kind of pauses there. I'm like, this is not for you, right?
I agree. Because you can
I'm a
make
big
money.
believer, do what you love and the money will follow.
Yep.
I've yet to see someone being handed a bunch of money and all of a sudden becoming successful, right?
Yeah, this
So
works. Let me do more of
I'm
that.
with
Yeah.
you there 1000%.
And if you're not in it to help people, people can feel that, especially in a transaction that like you should not be forcing someone to partake in, rather advising them, and then they're accepting your service as part of the offering. And those are the people that I typically tend to succeed. They're very curious about people and they're very eager and willing to help others. And it just starts to work in a loop, and the cycle begins from there.
Yeah, look, I think also like, when somebody joins our organization, I take that very personally, right? I feel like they're betting on me, they're betting on us. I don't want to let them down, right? I want to do everything possible to make sure that we, even like partnerships, just same thing with independent agents. If you've bet on me, I want to make sure I'm delivering to what your objectives are. And that's usually a conversation I have with them. What does 3 years, 5 years from now look like? Where do you want to be in this industry? Because I want to make sure that our goals are aligned so that 3, 5 years down the road, if I'm talking to them just like we are here today, I want to know that I've been working towards helping them achieve, their goals. That part I take very seriously. Again, that's just me when it comes to service, right? It's all about service.
Yeah, agreed. And you said earlier that you built a lot of that in through systems using technology. I'm curious to learn a little bit more. Like, what does 812's technology look like? And what is your overall philosophy on technology in the mortgage space? Because I certainly have plenty of thoughts. I've seen it done in 2 different countries. I've seen it done a lot of different ways. And I don't think there's any right way, but I do think there are more right ways than some of the wrong ways that I see. And
Yeah.
I'm curious because you have a technical co-founder as well, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, and some folks on your team that are doing some pretty cool things.
Yeah. Akbar Abbas, who's my co-founder, partner, he's our president and chief compliance officer currently. Yeah. Super knowledgeable on the tech side. Been around Silicon Valley for over 20 years. He was actually the one who, implemented, I started with Salesforce. He actually implemented Salesforce for me day one. So he was the guy that kind of helped me, hit the ground running. So the way I started building technology, I moved very quickly from Salesforce. I was with iJungle for a bit, which is a company that took Salesforce. You probably know them. They're in the US, right?
We started
Took Salesforce,
on that as
customized it.
well.
Oh,
It
you
was
did
just,
too?
it was the fastest way for us to get to market right at the beginning. Yeah.
That was it. That was it, right? So they customized Salesforce for the mortgage industry, predominantly in the US. Wasn't a good fit for me. I realized very quickly because, I always wanted to customize and I kind of had to do it with them and get on a call. And I'm not a developer. I want to focus on the sales and service side. And then Akbar had switched us over to Zoho because it was a lot more flexible, more cost effective, and I could do a lot more. And I'm not exaggerating. I spent over 7 figures customizing Zoho to make my business more efficient. And then just realized there's always going to be limitations. And this, took on the arduous task of building our own platform 3 years ago, which is infinite today. My general philosophy, even with Zoho, was if I do something and I do it more than once a day, even if it takes me, 8 seconds, but I do it 12 times a day, it should be automated,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But that automation, that efficiency that you're building into the technology, it should lead to a better customer experience, a better referral partner experience. So if that efficiency is not creating some sort of more time in your day to provide a better product, a better value, a better service, I don't know. That was my focus. How can I be faster to provide better
Not
service?
just technology for the sake of technology, said differently.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So how do I use technology to make me better? That actually makes me wonder about some of your thoughts around AI, because I think there's a lot of competing philosophies around that right now, and certainly all the buzz. And I believe it's deserving, by the way. I think the AI revolution is truly transformational, and I do think it's going to transform a lot of things in a lot of industries. Lending is one of the most far behind industries, actually, in terms of technology, and it's just ripe for AI innovation. But what do you think AI is going to do for our industry? How do you see AI playing a factor? And of course, the scary question is like, should I be scared of it?
Yeah. So I think two areas of the industry separately that it already is having an impact and will increase over time. Look, I think on the broker side, if you're not implementing AI or AI tools today, you will get left behind. It's inevitable, right? You've got banks that have, really sophisticated chatbots. They're available 24/7. They can provide a lot of information to customers as they're going through that underwriting journey. So understanding how to use AI for faster underwriting, faster processing speeds that again lead to better customer service experience, I think is mandatory. If either you're not implementing it or you're not part of a network that has the technology that's providing it to you, then you should really kind of think about where you are and what your future looks like. So that's kind of on the broker customer side. I agree with you that on the lending side, it's going to completely change the game, right? As you know, faster adjudication, more risk profiling, not just pre-funding, but post-funding as well. I think if I had to sum it up, today lenders are pricing, as you know, probably better than me. The lenders are pricing everything in a box, right? There's a GDS, TDS, and there's a credit score. And if you're in that box, you get the same price, right? For the most part.
Hmm.
I see the future of lender pricing similar to how insurance companies are pricing your car insurance. You put a tracker on your car, and based on how aggressive you are, how sharply you take a turn, how much you speed, how slow you go on the highway, they're adjusting their pricing as a result of that. I think mortgage pricing is going to get to that point. So it's not just going to be GDS, TDS, and credit score. I think it's going to be your repayment history, how long, or how fast, or where in your credit score are you over 800? Because today anything above 680 is priced the same way.
Yeah.
But if you're at 800, 800 is different than 680. So I think that pricing is even going to get adjusted with AI, even more deep than it is today, which as it should.
That that's a great answer. I think about that quite often. I mean, even as a consumer, if they were to find out that the 800 score gets the same rate as the 680 score and they've never been late on their mortgage, they keep 6 months of reserves for their mortgage payment in their bank account, and they've made all the right decisions, and they've got all this history and it's robust, and they pay their credit cards in full every single month. They do all these things. Like, I'm clearly less risk, right, than this person. Why shouldn't that be passed forward in pricing? It's not that foreign to me. That is how it is based in the US. The US is much closer to that model, although there's still some opportunities, but they have much tighter pricing windows that are risk based. And I think with the advancements in technology, it only makes sense that these risk scoring models are going to get better. Personal lending
Yep.
actually is ahead of us in that space. Even the alt lending space in our world is very much that today, right? Like, it's like, hey, what's the rate going to be? I don't know, maybe 6, maybe 8. Let me take a
Yeah.
look. I'll let you know. Now,
Yeah.
it's very manual, but I think there's a future in which technology is the decider of that. And also, I think that removes any potential biases of an individual human sitting on the other side of that to say, hey, this is not personal. And I think there's going to have to be some risk guards put in place in that. But ultimately, they're going to take a full profile of data that goes beyond just a credit bureau
Yeah.
and goes beyond just the GDS, TDS, and they're going to package all this data and it's going to tell you about the delinquency rate of those clients.
I'd almost love to see lenders having more of a matrix on how they pay commissions to brokers based on speed and efficiency as well. So there are efficiency bonuses today. A lot of lenders use that, but why pay a broker the same amount of compensation if it takes them a month to close that deal versus a week,
Mm.
right? They all have operational expenses, body count is, a big OpEx on their expense line. So if they could just process more files faster with a certain broker than another, there should be some kind of, beneficial interest for that speed. So there's a lot of ways that this could really will disrupt the space.
I like that as a pitch.
Yeah.
Like, hey, my pull through is higher than others.
Yeah.
I'm clearing my files faster. You have to do
Yep.
significantly less work on everything that I send over. How do you pass that back to me in
Yep.
price? And how do we build on this partnership and get everybody aligned to just be better, right? Because
Yep.
some of the bad actors will just slow you down as a lender for
Exactly.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's slowing you down, right? Now you're playing in the same field as the brokers who are not efficient, who are not doing the right things, who are not getting you some of the documents that you need as a lender. And then everybody shares in that price.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think it will literally weed out kind of not just the bad actors, but the inefficient actors, the slow actors, the stuff that really bogs down the industry, the stuff that requires FISRA to do more work and keep our licensing fees high. I think we become a lot more efficient and a lot more cost cutting can be passed on to us who bear a lot of that burden as a result of using AI properly.
So how do you do that for your own brokerage? I always say, like, if you're building a 3-person brokerage, I'll give you all the answers. It's actually scale and efficiency and accuracy all put together. And like, you're trying to do that and actually grow. You sound like you want to build something big that provides
Yep.
plenty of opportunity to others, opportunity to yourself. You probably were an efficient broker yourself, but now you're teaching hundreds of people to be efficient and good brokers. What are some of the things that you do? Is it technology? Is it training? How do you go to a lender and say, my brokerage will do great work and we expect great things in return from you as a lender?
Well, look, lenders are seeing that today, right? As we mentioned, as you know, they're looking at volumes and efficiencies today. That's kind of the 1-2. And again, over time, I think that'll get expanded. But we spend a lot of time going back to our original point on education and training and how to use the technology properly. Like a quick example would be, we have stages in our mortgage journey, right? One of the very early stages that we have is credit consent. I really believe, the journey starts when you get credit consent. You could talk to a lead or a customer and you can have a great discussion, but until they sign off on letting you pull their credit, that's like saying yes to the sale. And I could tell you very quickly, just by tracking how long it takes a broker to get credit consent, where they can use help in their business. I can tell you how long it takes from going from credit consent to, getting through underwriting, where they need help in their business. Same thing with once they get an approval and how quickly they get. So just by going through the stages in the journey and tracking that and seeing where the inefficiencies are through AI and, through those types of reports, it can really change the way brokers, run their business.
I'm going to dive in there with you a little bit if you don't mind, because we do much the same. You probably know this about us, but very data driven, measuring at the lead stage before we've even talked to the client. Once we've talked to the client, if we've had a conversation of even more than 90 seconds, we will automate putting that lead into allocation status, right? Like flipping it over, like, okay, like now this is somebody that we've talked to. We're getting early flag, we're getting data, and we know whether or not there's any level of intent or even just a hint of interest there. That's like the first flag for us from a data perspective. The second thing then is credit report and actually measuring how many of those people that we talk to do we turn into credits. That's a very early indicator of, is the agent doing what they're supposed to do? And are these clients expressing good interest in moving forward? And then from there, did we present an option to the client? Did we have a solution? Did we not have a solution? Let's track that. If we had a solution, did we present it to the client? Did the client accept that as a presentation, or did they not accept that? If they did they sign what we call our rocket package? If they signed the rocket package, did they return the supporting documents? Like, there's all these little parts of the funnel. We're tracking them, and it's making us better at what we do as well. And I've probably beat this drum a lot in other conversations and been on a few other podcasts as well. People always ask me, like, what's the thing that I can do? It's like, you might not be able to do it exactly like that if you don't have the full tech stack that supports it, but you can certainly, I don't care if you just have a Post-it note, you can write down whether or not you talk to a client, pull the copy of their credit report, and presented a solution, got the application back, submitted it, got it approved, turned into a broker complete, got broker complete turn into closing, I would literally check a box for every single one of those and be scoring myself every single day. Is that something that you did when you were an independent as well?
If I didn't get credit within 24 hours, and I did 99% of the time, but if I didn't, then I obviously didn't win their trust and confidence in the beginning. Like
Hmm.
that's it, right? So as you go through that, you kind of self-balance yourself on if there's something that's taking longer, why is it taking longer? What's the reason? And then you really start learning, and this is where like what you're talking about, you actually start learning like how to properly take clients through a journey. Another quick example would be a lot of brokers like to ask for all documents up front. I don't think that's efficient at all, right?
Hmm.
Like a quick example would be if your debt service ratios are really low, does it really matter what their exact amount of property tax is? Like 2 grand more, 2 grand less, and you're still going to be on side. Why does it matter? Get it later, you know?
Hmm.
So it's really understanding, it's almost like breadcrumbs, like you said, right? It's almost like breadcrumbs, like knowing how to get the clients to get to that next stage, the next stage, the next stage faster, and using whether it's a scoring system, using the technology, which we should be using today, can really just change your business overnight.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is focused on the sale itself, the relationship itself, the client. Like put all your attention into that and then like solve for the mortgage, right? But if you have no relationship, you have no mortgage anyways.
The biggest thing I tell, especially newer agents, not even all newer agents, just agents when I do my sales training, is like you have to think about it as if you're walking into a doctor's office. You're not feeling well, you're sick, something's wrong. If you got a doctor who's not confident, well, you should take this. And, if something happens, maybe call. You walk out of there, you're literally walking next door to the next doctor, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
go to my doctor, I'm in and out in 5 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. I'm in and out in 5 minutes. Like, okay, what's going on? Da, 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 da. I'm in and out in 5 minutes, and I have zero concern that what he told me to do, he's bang on, right? Like
Hmm.
that confidence is just, you can just feel it. If you don't have that same kind of relationship with your clients, then their very next call would be to their friend or family member or someone else they know to get a second opinion. As soon as they get a second opinion or a third opinion, that's it. You, for the most part, lost the deal unless you miraculously offer a rate where you don't make any money on it. So
Hmm.
that trust and confidence has to be, you know, established, from the beginning. Otherwise, your deal is always going to be in jeopardy.
Yeah, I am thinking about confidence, speed. One word that we talk about often is certainty inside. And when I think about our business, Rocket Pro, going to market, the reason why we felt so passionate about working with brokers outside of ourselves, because we are a broker too. And now we're working with independent brokers and starting to sign up brokerages, one of them being yours. And we felt so passionate about like that idea of certainty. Like, how do we deliver certainty? Well, we deliver speed and we deliver approvals that actually close. Then we went about just like designing our process to deliver that. So how important is it to have the lender get on board in that process? Because you could say all you want, like, I've got you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, and I'm going to take care of you. And, just what you said, like, give me the pay stub and bank statements in a couple of days, because right now I'm focused on getting this approval and I'm going to make sure that this mortgage closes for you. But then the lender doesn't do their part, don't deliver on it. Like, that doesn't really fit your process. So what are you hoping to see from us? And what are you seeing from some of the best lenders in the space right now?
Yeah, look, I'm a big believer, and it goes back to the partnership discussion. I'm a big believer in, the way you want to be treated is how you need to treat others. So it goes back to the partnerships, right? Remember, I said you're asking accountants, financial advisors, realtors to hand over their most valuable asset being the client. And then the lenders are asking us to do the same thing, right? It's
Hmm.
our most valuable asset. I have a choice of lenders that I can go to. So which one am I going to choose? It's the same pitch that I have to my referral partners, why they should trust me or 8Twelve with their business. The lender should be the exact same way. I truly believe that there's never been a more important time than today for lenders and brokers to work very closely together and have a very strong relationship, right? So I'm going to choose the lenders that treat me and my clients the same way I treat my clients and my referral partners. It's all part of the same, call it food chain. So I want lenders that are responsive, that have common sense, that show me they care about my business and want to deliver the best possible service. Those are the lenders that I'm always going to prioritize. I've done that from day one. I have lenders that I started that helped me learn the business from day one. And, we're now one of their biggest accounts as a result of that. So that loyalty, that service, that trust, it has to go both ways.
Yeah, that's great. They grew your business, you're growing their business, mutually beneficial. That's how this thing's supposed to work, right?
Again, I'm not transactional. So for me, it's not always about the rate, right? There's a lot more that comes with that mortgage than just rate itself. So
Mhm.
if you're a lender that's at least competitive, you don't have to be the cheapest. I was never the cheapest, but if you're a lender that's competitive and you provide a great service and you're loyal and you're going to take care of my customer, then I'm going to always prioritize that business to you.
Great. So, Gary, when you think about 812 and what you're building, what do you want to achieve? Like, what do you want the rest of this journey to look like that you've been on? And I think you've been doing about what, 4 or 5 years now. We started around a similar time, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of like the growth trajectory of what you're up to there. What do you want the impact to look like, and what do you want to do?
Yeah, no. So I started 10 years ago, 812 started in 2018. We're on year 6 right now. My focus today, like today meaning every day right now, is how do I make others better? Power by numbers. Like how do I empower others to be the best at what they do throughout the entire organization, right? Legacy for me is where I think at some point, hopefully nobody remembers my name. They know everybody else's name. That for me would be success. It's like a coach where you say, if you can make your player better than as a coach than you were, then you did the right thing. That's what I focus on right now every single day. What I get up in the morning for, again, from a business perspective.
That's very well said. And maybe since it was so well said, I'll leave it there with you. I think you've given us a lot to go on in regards to partnerships and sales and technology and legacy and impact. Having a bunch of other people doing 100 million in volume a year because they learned from you how to do it, I think would be an incredible legacy. So thanks for coming on the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. All the best.